This podcast contains strong adult content, probably crude language, and general fuckery. So put those kids away. Get them out of here.
Good evening. In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court today legalized abortion.
Huge increases in sexually transmitted diseases.
Transgender rights is a fundamental human right.
There is a right to marriage equality. I repeat, speaking to you from the steps of the Supreme Court, there is a right to marriage equality.
Should sex education be taught to our kids?
Rolling back contraceptive coverage for women.
To make sure that women get the health care that they need. So we've got a lot of work
and
in
welcome
front of us.
to
Thank you very
Frisky
much.
History. Frisky History is a podcast series that explores the humorous, bizarre, and sometimes horrifying history of sexual health. And my name is Robyn Schmitz.
What up? I'm Lacey.
What up?
Gonzalez.
So today, well, we're all full.
I'm sorry.
Should we
Before we start, no, before you get into it, I just wanted to ask, maybe we should go. I'm going to do this with my dog for the rest of the time. No, I was just gonna see how you are.
Oh my god, how are you? Oh my god.
How's it going?
So good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How was your birthday?
Good. Oh my god, thanks. It was great. It was really fun. I ate a big donut and looked over the water and watched Stranger Things and fell asleep at like 10:30.
Did you finish Stranger Things yet?
No.
Okay.
Did you?
So, yes.
Oh, fuck.
And I feel like I may bring this up later because maybe I'll have a reason to. For now, I'm not going to, just in case that you think it's a spoiler. So I partially did this selfishly. That's the word I was looking for. Because I've been waiting to tell you something.
Oh my god.
That happened.
Stop.
Because I kind of wanted to text you like the morning after, but then I was like, save it for the podcast because you need the good air. So we were asleep and it would have been Wednesday night maybe, and we were awoken by screaming. And I know. So it was in the building too. It definitely wasn't like through the window screaming. It was definitely through the walls screaming.
Oh Jesus.
That just made me think of that terrible song. Sorry, I was like, should I make a joke about sweat dripping down my balls? And I decided not to. Anyways, the story. So we were awoken by screaming, and it was this definitely. Okay, so it was either a couple fighting and breaking up, or someone broke into someone's house and murdered them.
Oh,
I mean, they
okay.
could be either
really
of those
different.
things.
Yeah.
I like to think it was the latter because it sounds more fun. But
Oh my god.
the lack of police officers that we've had in the building makes me think it was probably just some light domestic violence.
Oh yikes.
No big deal. So there's like yelling and screaming, and they're talking, but you can't really understand the girl because she's screaming so much.
Oh my god.
And there's so many noises, and it's like them walking, but like stomping around. I thought at one point the guy yelled like, calm the fuck down or something, or you're being crazy. I can't remember, but
oh my god.
it was just a lot of fighting. And then we hear a door slam, and then we hear someone walking, and then the front door opens and shuts.
Oh.
And a car like took off from outside of our window. It was super fucking loud, so I'm assuming it had to be the dude's car because it's one of those cars with like those really annoying engines. It's just like way too fucking loud. Or it's the exhaust. I don't know what makes that sound, but it's awful. And that was like, by the time the car left, it was like 5:15 in the morning. And so my husband Danny was like, I'm gonna take the dogs out because I'm up, it's fine, I'm just gonna take them out. It sounded like that. I don't know if you can hear that on air, but it was that guy. He knows I'm talking about him. So Danny takes the dogs out, and then I just get this message. I get a text message because I'm trying to go back to sleep, and it just says there's blood all over the door.
Shut the fuck up. the
front door.
Whoa!
So on the front door, we have this like handle, and you have to put your thumb on the little latch and push it down to open it, just for listeners at home, so you know what it's like to be me. But apparently Danny said there was blood on the handle, and like someone obviously had blood all over their hands, and then they touched the glass with a bloody hand and like smeared it on the glass door. So naturally, well, at first I called him and I was like, be careful. Like, who knows what the fuck is happening right now?
Oh my God.
And then I immediately, after being on the phone with him for like 30 seconds, sent him a text message. I was like, but also if it's still there when you get back, take a picture. Because I really want to see what it looks like. But I'm not leaving the apartment right now.
Oh my God.
It was not there, unfortunately. He like, right when Danny started to come back inside with the dogs after walking them, there were paramedics outside of the building, and one of them was cleaning the door with alcohol spray. So
what?
So because it was Halloween. Okay, so it was Wednesday morning because it was the day after Halloween, and we were like,
shit.
Was it fake blood? But then we also were like, there wouldn't be a paramedic cleaning up something with alcohol if it were. So pretty sure it was real blood. And
oh, that's fucking crazy.
I know, right? I want to save that text message and frame it forever because it was like all of my dreams coming true because I felt like I was in like a horror movie just reading that in like pitch dark apartment. I mean, it's not that dark because obviously we live in the city where there's always lights outside, but dark enough. And also, right before I lay back down, I kind of thought someone was sitting in the desk chair that I'm currently sitting in, and then I was like, I think that's just like the light from the Wi-Fi router hitting the chair, and it's just being weird. You're fine. Go to bed. I'm sure that's what that was, but it was still like I was just in this like creeped out mood, and then I just get this wonderful text message, and I was like, this is both amazing. And I've been trying to. There's a woman who lives in this building who takes her dogs out. Usually like the same time I take the dogs out at night, and I've been trying to find her and like creepily try to find her so I can see if she knows what's going on, because she was a very good source of information when like our property manager quit working here. No one knew except her. And some mattresses got set on fire outside, so she's like knowing all these things. She was like out there when it happened. She tried to put it out with her foot, and then it just like I don't know, caught flames. And so she's obviously the person to talk to. So I'm still trying to track her down so I can figure out exactly like what the fuck happened. But yeah, it was like
I wonder if there would be like some kind of record of that in like a newspaper or
I tried.
Like, you did?
I Googled it.
Oh shit.
I couldn't find anything.
Oh.
Apparently in 2011 a woman was hit by a car on our street because that result kept coming up, and at first I was like, and then I was like, wait, no, that doesn't make sense. It was inside the building. I don't think she got hit by, and it was 2011. So obviously, I mean, maybe, but probably not. But I just been wanting to tell you that story because of how much, murder fascinates us.
I also can't believe you like waited that long to tell me.
I've honestly been thinking about it for quite a long time.
Jesus, that's amazing.
I know.
I mean, we're talking about it. We're like, oh my God, that's incredible. It was just the best. And it's like, I really hope everyone's okay.
Yeah, honestly, there's a chance someone maybe got hit, and, I'm hoping, best case scenario, like, stuff was thrown, or maybe a guy punched a wall, because they do that when they get mad sometimes.
They do. It's logical,
so that may have been all of it.
Right.
But
God, that is so intense.
It was really, like, crazy.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. On Halloween, too, that's... I really want to say it's perfect, but I hope everyone's okay.
It's awful. We're terrible people, and it's fine.
Oh, Jesus. Wow. Well, thank you for telling me that.
You're welcome.
And I really want to know what happened.
I know. I'm going to try to find out. I'll stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned.
To be continued.
On the next episode. But I have a sort of spooky Halloween-ish story. Not spooky. Okay, it's not very spooky.
It's fine,
Yours was very spooky.
It really was. It was probably just your standard domestic violence case.
Oh, sure.
Really.
Yeah. So I got this package. Well, I didn't get this package. I got this notice on my door that's like, sorry we missed you, and it checked off that it was like a letter, but I had to be there to sign for it.
That's
weird. I was like, okay, that's like weird. And then I went to the post office to pick it up, and the guy kept coming out, and he's like, do you know where it's from? Like, do you know anything about this package? And I was like, I have no idea. Like, it was my birthday, so I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was like your grandma sending you like a $25 check, and she was like really worried someone was stealing.
Well, that's what I was thinking. And then he was like, it looks like it's from overseas. And I was like,
the fuck?
What? And I was thinking, I just got a new job, so maybe they're trying to send me like paperwork. And then I was like, but it's from overseas, like, and I still don't know what it is. And they're like, we'll call you. And I'm like, that is the worst, because like I just want to, like, there's nothing I can do. do. And
Right.
I'm just sitting here waiting for this mysterious package to show up, and it's never going to show up, and they're probably never going to find it, and they're never going to call me. That's it.
That's crazy.
It sucks. Because I want to know what it is.
Yeah.
And this thing happened to me in like high school where I got flowers for my graduation, and they showed up in the mail anonymously with like no note. And I asked all of my family members.
Oh my God.
Fucking nobody was like, yeah, we got those flowers for you. And it's still to this day, it's like bugging the shit out of me. I have no idea.
That's,
like,
yeah, you have a secret. You definitely have some sort of secret admirer / stalker who's just like waiting and watching.
Oh, like every few years is like sending me the shit. But
oh my God, just wait till one day you get like an envelope that's just full of hair. Just like locks of his hair. Or her hair. It could be.
Yeah,
fingernails.
No.
Gross.
Yeah. Oh God, Jesus. Yeah. So that's my current like spooky mystery, and I don't know, man. I'll let you know.
Yeah,
I'll
keep me posted
It's
on
probably
that.
gonna be like fucking like a Kohl's catalog or something.
IKEA. It's from Sweden. They just shipped it directly to you because they knew you needed some
Anyway.
bedside furniture.
Yeah, so, well, Halloween's the best, and I'm glad we both have some, like, actual spooky stories.
But also all terrible, and we hope everyone's okay.
Yeah, everybody please be okay. I hope I'm not getting sent, like, poison or something.
Yeah. It's true. Open it slowly. Maybe have Chris open it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, love you, babe. Could
you just check this for me? Just in case.
Oh my God.
Okay.
So anyway, we're running a podcast here.
Right.
Back to business. So I researched my topic this week is the birth of like the American housewife stereotype, which kind of is like more or less just like the American housewife stereotype in the 1960s, because I feel like the stereotype has been around for like ever.
Yeah.
Since like cavewomen times.
That's true, yeah, because men would go hunt and ladies were there to bear children and
have their period. Yeah.
Gather berries and stick them up there.
Yeah.
Block the
So yeah,
oh,
so
that's interesting.
Yeah, this is how like the when you think of, I guess, like advertisements from like the 50s and 60s, how like the woman is wearing heels and an apron and the dress and like is perfectly made up. So this is kind of how that got to be huge. And originally I was going to research like food and sex and like how like the evolution of food and sex has become a thing and what it's evolved into. But then I like started doing research on this one I'll get to it, but like I just like dove into this one person because it was just like it's really interesting. Now I'm like building it up, so don't get your hopes up.
Definitely go back to food and sex though later, because
I know I'm definitely going to, because this is like the starting point, so I could definitely see this feeding into that as well. I
love it. We're a serialized podcast now. You need to hear every episode in order.
Exactly. Back in episode 2. The housewife stereotype in like the 1960s was sort of the opposing force of like second wave feminism, which is really interesting, which I think makes this like so much stronger, because it's like there were clearly like two sides of women. You were either like a feminist or you were like Maribel Morgan, who is this author that wrote this book called A Total Woman. And I'm not even going to get into that yet, but I'll come back to it later. I just have so much I want to tell you.
Oh my God.
So basically in the 50s and 60s, there were a lot of books that were published about like sex education kind of, but more like people sort of speculating about sex, because nobody ever talked about sex in like normal conversations in like the 50s. It was like unheard of. So people would write books being like, oh, do you have questions about sex? You probably do, because no one talks about it. So like, here's everything you need to know. So this guy, David Rubin, wrote this book called Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Too Afraid to Ask, which was later turned into parodied by Woody Allen, which that's a whole other can of beans. So David Rubin, the author of this book, was a psychiatrist from California He was a quote-unquote sex expert and an author. He was quoted saying, "I generally try to avoid having sex more than once a day. Why? I'd never get any writing done." So this is the kind of guy that, he's like, just once a day. Cap it off there. No more for me.
I can only imagine that this information that he was providing, did it say it was primarily to a female audience, or was it just for everyone?
That's what pisses me off, is that it's like targeted toward, I mean, I guess it's for everyone, like everybody read it, but it like basically emphasized that like women are only fulfilled when they're doing things for their husbands.
Ew.
Right.
I was wondering that because of like I feel like this has probably always been around since cave people, that men aren't really like that, especially among men, like, you know, locker room talk, quote unquote. You know, that men talk pretty freely about sex with their male counterparts, and so I feel like this would just be aimed at women without implicitly saying it, but definitely would be, because women are the ones who don't like, we don't talk about that with our female friends, you know. Exactly.
That's a good point.
And I also feel like the information they were given, now that you've said that, now I know for sure the information they were being given probably not the best. I doubt it talked about many things that would actually help the ladies.
It is just wild what this guy suggests. So this was like one of the first sex manuals that entered the mainstream culture in like the 60s. And it actually had like a profound effect on sex education, since it like sparked a dialogue between everyone. So it was just something that everybody was so hush hush about. And then like this book came out and everyone like freaked out about it. And it was like this best-selling book, I guess, because it's like super intriguing. If it's like something that's forbidden to talk about, obviously you want to talk about it.
I could see the appeal of the like taboo thing. And then it being like super, I guess it's kind of like now when we're open, when the more open-minded you are, the more you're like, let's talk about how open-minded we are.
Oh my god, yeah. And also it's just like buying, like in high school, I would like sneak a fucking Cosmopolitan magazine into my house.
I did that so many times.
It was so funny. And like looking back, I'm like, those tips were
terrible, right?
God,
they were so bad.
Just horrifying.
I remember reading once, to wear, okay, it's so specific, and I don't know why I remember it this well. Wear silk underwear and have your, you know, sex partner take a hairdryer and like blow the heat on your vagina. Whoa. And I'm like, I don't know. First of all, that sounds dangerous.
No, that's so awful.
Sweaty downstairs does not sound
super hot,
like the best thing ever.
That is not.
So there's a taste of Cosmo from my day.
Yeah, wow. I'm really glad you remember that. I can't think of any that stuck out to me, but that is a really good one.
There were so many too that I felt like you had to use your pillows. Like, put your pillow under your back, put it under your butt, put it under your head.
Eat it.
Just stick it inside you.
Fuck a pillow. Oh my god, it's so upsetting. And they're still so successful.
Oh my god, you should buy one and read it next
and the thing
time.
Is, I would totally still read one and be like, this is dumb. And then I'd be like, is it dumb?
Or will I try it? Yeah. So, coming soon, sex advice.
Yes, absolutely. Fucking Cosmo. So, basically, going off of that, David Rubin wrote this book. It was basically the Cosmopolitan of this time. It was published in 1969, so it was nice.
Did he plan that?
He made his entire life.
Okay, I'm sorry. I swear to God, I'm gonna let you finish this. Okay.
Oh my god. So it also was positive in a way, because it's like it denounced slut shaming, and it was like men and women can kind of sleep with whoever they want, however many people they want, like it shouldn't be anyone else's business. Nice. So like, okay, cool. But then, a lot of what he said was hugely ridiculed because he said some like really dumb shit where he was like, he said Coca-Cola makes the best douche, and like immediately doctors were like, don't do that. It doesn't, like, you could
Please
die.
No.
He's like, it makes the best douche. Like, what are your sources?
Yeah, what are your sources?
Yeah,
like, what are you douching with Coke? Because
that sounds hard.
Oh my god.
Man.
Oh, the fizziness. No.
No, right? I know. And it's maybe like a part of me is like, maybe that would be interesting, but then the other part of me is like, no.
Yeah.
a much bigger part of me.
Is it bad though that we're willing to drink it and digest it, but we're like, don't put it up our vaginas?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because then that could apply to all kinds of food, because it's like,
true,
I
yeah.
just ate a huge taco with all the fixins.
Or like the other all the fixins. We did just do that. That's a true story. I just ate tacos with all the fixings.
Yeah.
And then I guess if you go the other way, it also doesn't make any sense because it's just like, don't put tampons in your mouth. Just don't. Like, it's not a good idea. Okay, so listen, we're learning so much.
Yeah.
Okay, vagina and mouth are just two totally different subjects. Anyway, Coke is a good douche. Got it.
Yep. Tell all your friends. So, yeah, keeping in mind that this was a time that like TV couples were still sleeping in like separate beds and like like condoms, like you couldn't buy condoms at a pharmacy, or if you did, they were like behind the counter, so it was like kind of a scandalous purchase. And abortion was still illegal, so it's like still like, yeah, so this book sort of changed a lot about how people viewed sex, but it still like said some dumb shit. Anyway, so you asked about how if that was like directed toward women.
Mm-hmm.
He later on in 1972 he published a book called Any Woman Can. So that is a man telling you how to have sex.
Oh, I just like I feel like that's such a vague title that you just don't know what you're gonna get when you open it. Like, any woman can be an astronaut, fly a plane around the world,
God,
invent
if only, right?
Coding, or take it up the butt.
Any woman can.
Which one? Where are we talking on the spectrum of what women can do?
That's such a good fucking point. That's so upsetting.
I'm guessing it's the low end of that spectrum.
Because the whole book is just like, any woman can have good sex if you just try.
We're not the problems usually when it comes to that. We're not the ones
insider
problem this. I mean, if I'm just saying, uneven.
Putting it out there.
If one person is not and the other person is, I'm just saying.
Yeah, just saying, just food for thought.
It's fine.
Yeah, so I'm already mad about this book because it's just a man trying to lecture women about sex. So some of the tips that he gives in there are just so one of the quotes that I read from it was, if a woman wants to make herself indispensable to a man, she can pull out all the stops and unleash the ultimate weapon, milk. Okay. So, right? So, he said that since male babies are nursed, men become fixated on milk for life. Thus, a woman wishing to marry a particular man should make sure to serve him coffee with cream, dairy-based meals, and plenty of ice cream, so she becomes associated with milk. Isn't that horrifying?
That is so horrifying. And what about the dudes who are lactose intolerant?
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, what about them?
Like, women, stop.
Yeah. No more ice cream, please.
You love it.
I guess he would remember you forever.
That's so true.
The woman who tried to kill me with dairy. Also, I'm surprised that this theory formed from breastfeeding went for the feeding part and not the breast part. I feel like if you have boobs and milk and you're like, which one, dudes? I feel like
give me the milk.
give me that sweet lactose.
Fucking lactose. Yeah, so that's his advice, and I think it says a lot more about like his own fetishes than like.
Yeah. Oh my god.
He's like, dudes love it.
All those poor women who must have had to pour milk all over.
I know.
Oh my god, they were probably douching with milk.
I know.
Which honestly sounds better than Coke, though, if I had to choose.
God, I don't even know.
I don't know.
There's so many factors.
It's a lot going. Is it warm? Is it cold?
Oh god.
What's the date? What's the expiration date on it? Is this flat Coke? I need the details before I make my decision.
Only. God. Yeah, so that's upsetting.
Yeah.
And he also said that like this is a little more tame, but still gross. He said, quote, "The girl who gives her man a back rub after a hard day at the office does more for herself and him than a whole week of afternoons at her hairdresser." So, a lot of layers. Like, my skin is like, I feel my blood boiling.
Yeah. That's upsetting.
So hard. And it's just like, there's so many parts of that. Like, you just have to, like,
you could have stopped. Yeah, you could have stopped after the back rub.
Yeah.
After a hard day's work. Or you could have stopped after it'll be good, better, what was it? Good enough for woman and man?
It's,
I don't want to misquote him. This is important.
No, God forbid. It does more for herself and him than a whole week.
Right. So like, stop after him. And but then you add on the other layer of just being like a condescending asshole.
Oh, totally.
And talking about her hair. When it's just like,
because that's all
why
women do.
Do you think that they went to the hairdresser all
fucking
the time?
every day?
Not for themselves. I mean, they may have. That's not true. You know, some of us
totally.
like to just like pamper ourselves for fun.
Absolutely.
But probably more than likely they were doing it to meet your societal standards.
Oh, for sure.
On them
especially
looking
that time.
Perfect all the time.
Exactly.
That's
a huge part of it. Yeah. So don't forget to rub your man on the back.
Yes. Milk, back rubs.
Milk that back. So. Oh
Let's
God!
Start combining all of these together. It's gonna be a wild ride.
God, and the worst thing that he said, I know we've said some horrible things, we've repeated horrible things that he has said.
Right.
But this is the worst, and it's not even funny, it's just so horrible. I'm gonna just say it, because, you know, now that I've talked it up so much.
It's a safe space. In my closet.
In your fucking closet. We're recording this in a closet.
Yeah.
Just
surrounded by
viewers
shoes and all kinds of things. It's fun.
So, get ready to be sad. He said, quote, "Most women don't know this, but they can fight off an attacker at least 90% of the time with hardly a risk to themselves. All they have to do is appear to cooperate until he exposes himself. If the lady then takes the testicles in her left hand and smashes them as hard as she can with the right fist once or twice, he will lose all interest in sex." Okay, so we're gonna take a break because we have to like just take a lap, like run around the building.
Okay, so so dunk our faces in cold milk to calm down. Okay.
It's just so.
So these are his tips for evading sexual assault / rape. Mm-hmm. Be into it. Wait for the dude to pull his pants down when you're sure to have a clear and open pathway to just straight up grab his balls and then sucker punch them with the right hand.
Right,
what if they're
right.
left-handed? First of all, you should not have been that specific.
Do not specify. That's the real issue here. Oh, Jesus.
90% of the time, huh? That's an interesting number. I wonder where he got it from. I'm gonna say his ass.
His big stupid ass.
Pulled it right out of there. That's just gross. Like, what?
Horrible.
I think if you are a sex expert, in what way does that then give you permission to talk freely about, like, what women should be doing to... Oh my god,
I don't even know what to, like, say about it, because it's so horribly, horribly wrong. And now we're obviously in a very different time, but this still, like, women are still being attacked, and to say something like that to a woman who has been attacked, or it's just so
to make it to trivialize like what she could have done to save herself.
Yeah, like,
it's as simple as just gut punching him right in the sack. No big deal.
Just
and
do it.
Honestly, yeah,
oh my God.
We do live in a different time. If only that meant that men, especially ones in political positions, stop saying these kinds of ridiculous things.
Yeah.
But they don't. They just keep doing it. They just do it. They do it all they want, and they
fucking get away with it, and they still will. Fine. This could be said today, and this guy would still be a fucking CEO somewhere.
Absolutely.
So it's just like, even though it is a different time, at the same time, it's like, all right.
Yeah, I'm surprised that like there wasn't some sort of extremely weird, like. Punching them in the balls is odd. Like, it's an oddly specific thing to do, to cup them and then punch them. But I am surprised that there isn't something weirder in there, like with like his track history so far.
His lactate.
Like, it's like I
room.
Wonder, because I feel like he's really into liquids, so it's just what. Maybe it's like, and then shake a can of Minute Maid and just spray him in the face with it. That's not a carbonated drink. That wouldn't even work. This is why this isn't my job. This is why I'm not a sex expert in 1969.
Nice. No, seriously. So that dude sucks.
He's awful.
I don't fucking. I hate him a lot.
So,
so that's basically David Rubin.
Nice to meet you, Dave.
It's
been a pleasure.
Love you. Jesus Christ. So that was published in 1972. So backtracking a little bit to 1963, when Fascinating Womanhood was published by Helen Andelin, who was a devout.
I think
it's devout. Devout Mormon. So she.
Mormon. Fun.
Yes, and you sort of hailing from Salt Lake City.
Yeah, I moved here from Salt Lake City. Right. I didn't really have it. I mean, like, I worked with a lot of people who were Mormon, but they weren't like FLDS, like super, like where prairie dresses live on, on compound type Mormons. They were just like modern day Mormons.
Right.
And we really didn't talk about it much because they were my coworkers, most of them. So
for sure.
I did learn a few things that were like pretty mind blowing. But yeah, okay. So celestial underpants, that's a Mormon thing.
Right. So
undergarments, probably. I shouldn't call them underpants. My apologies to our Mormon listeners. I'm sorry.
I haven't heard that word in a while. But okay, so Helen, she published this book called Fascinating Womanhood, which really encouraged like the picturesque housewife stereotype. Had to be made up, had to have the kids behaving at all times, had to keep the house clean, had to keep telling her husband that she would be nothing without him. The usual.
I'm exhausted just listening to her job.
It's awful. That is a full-time job though, to be a housewife.
Yeah, and listen, if you're into it, if you're into this lifestyle and you chose it for yourself, more power to you.
For sure.
You know, moms, we need them, but some of us don't want to.
Yeah, and to tell your husband that you'd be nothing without him, girl.
Oh, please. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
If anything, you'll have far less. You'll have milk, so much more milk on hand.
Yeah.
Because you won't be giving him all of your dairy products. You'll have so much more ice cream for yourself.
Yeah.
Important. That's important.
God damn.
Okay, I'm sorry. So Helen, let's talk about Helen.
So this is brief, but the one weird thing about her book was that she believed that women should always remain childlike no matter what the situation. So, like, if she were angry at her husband, she would, like, kind of, like, mock pound on his chest and be like, quote, this is a quote, how could you be so mean to a poor little girl like me? You're just a big meanie. And I refuse to say that in a baby voice, but I'm sure that's how it's meant to be said.
What?
And it makes me want to throw up.
What the fuck? What
So
the
it's
fuck?
pretty wild.
I heard. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but I just
please do.
So I at one point in my life spent a ton of time listening to Loveline because I love Drew Pinsky. I
don't know
love
what that
Dr.
is.
Drew. So Loveline, it's this like call-in late night radio show. I'm pretty sure it's in like LA or something. So it's also on Podcast One, maybe. But it used to be Dr. Drew Pinsky and Adam. Oh, shit, what's his name? I can't remember. So it was Dr. Drew and Adam, and so like people would call in with questions, anything concerning like sex, their love life, their personal lives in general, even sometimes like mental health, because Dr. Drew is I don't know if he's a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but he's one of the two. I think he's a psychiatrist because I think they're the ones that can administer medicine.
Yeah.
So he used to say all the time, though, I've learned so many like random facts of things. They could be bullshit, and a lot of people hate Dr. Drew, but I fucking love him. But he used to say that when women, when grown like women are stuck in this state of like having like a little girl type voice, that usually that meant that they were sexually assaulted as a child. And that they like remained in that state because of some sort of sexual trauma.
Whoa.
At that age. So you, like whatever age they experience the sexual trauma is like kind of where their voice just stopped maturing.
Wow.
I know, it was so interesting.
That's
and then
heavy,
Dr. Drew
man.
stopped being on Loveline and I quit listening to it.
I
know. But there's so many times they used to call and ask the stupidest questions. One time a guy asked, and it just like this is the reason this podcast has to exist, okay?
Sure.
Some guy called in and he was concerned that he was going to get an STD because his girlfriend's brother had an STD. And Dr. Drew was like,
God.
Are you fucking your girlfriend's brother? And he was like, no. And he was like, is she fucking her brother? And he was like, no. And then Dr. Drew was like, that's not how sexually transmitted diseases work then.
How the fuck did he think?
He just thought because his girlfriend's brother had a sexually transmitted disease that meant he could also get one.
Well, maybe he thinks he might have thought it was like it runs in the family.
Like maybe he
something.
was born with it and it's actually the mom or something.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think so. He did not explain it like that.
That is rough.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, kids,
get educated.
get your sex education.
Come on,
It's
read some
important.
books,
Otherwise,
libraries,
you
go to the
sound
library.
really stupid on the radio.
Aw.
It's something no one
That's
wants.
really-
I'm sorry.
Oh, man.
So,
Yeah,
so I find that terrifying that like this woman is, oh God, and that's like such a power, like just like giving a man all, oh God, ew.
Yeah,
it just makes me feel gross. It makes me feel so gross.
And it's weird that like there's always, even to this day, there's always been this like obsession with like grown women acting like babies, and it's like a lot of women do it, I think, without even realizing sometimes, and maybe that's shitty to say. I don't really know, but like
I don't know. I do
to flirt
when
with
I talk to my
dudes or
dog.
something?
Okay, yeah, definitely. I do.
When I
talk to my dog. When I talk to my dogs, I use like a bit of a baby voice,
for sure.
and then like I'll say things to Danny in like a kid voice, but it's never, ever in sexual environment ever. I just want to be clear about it, that, and it's also never in a like I don't know, what would you call that, like an offensive move because you're fighting. I don't know. Gross.
Yeah,
it's gross.
But
That's
then
gross.
I also think back to like I guess movies that were made in that time, and I could see like me. I don't know. I Love Lucy, maybe.
She
Or was she? She was kind of cool though.
She was cool. She was actually super funny.
pretty dope.
But like Marilyn Monroe is a good example. I think. Like I know that was not her real voice. She just like wanted to sound like a like dainty little girl.
Yeah,
it's weird.
It is weird. So I think that people were obsessed with that. That was also a best-selling book. Like these people fucking ate that shit up because it was like. God. I don't know. I think people were just really lost and had no one to talk to about this stuff, and
it's just like all it takes is like one woman in your, to use this shitty like example, but in your like hairdressing salon.
Oh yeah,
one woman being like, "It's changed my life. My marriage is so much better. It's like the most amazing thing ever." It's like it's just crazy the type of conversations that like happen with. I don't know what to call it, like naive women, like not women, no, naive people. It's not even just women, but it's totally everybody. Yeah. I feel like I just keep telling you stories that refer to everything, but I have another one.
No, good. I love it.
I was getting my hair done once, and when I lived back home, my my mom's cousin or something, she had a little beauty salon in her house, and she would like do our hair for like close to no money. So I go there all the time, and there was one time when I went, and Danny was actually with me, and he was just sitting in the living room watching TV, but they started talking about, so these are people in the South, and they started talking about like Georgia, not Texas, so Southeast. They started talking about Obama, and they got so much information wrong. One, they said he was Muslim, and like they were just talking about like Hussein being his middle name, and like, or how could we put a person like that in office? And it was like, I was just sitting there quietly like, what's happening? Because one, like, you're wrong, he's actually Catholic, but it's fine. And also, and what does this name have to do with it? Yeah, but like it's just like crazy how you get in these environments where you're just like chit-chatting with people, and then all of a sudden you just start talking about things that make no fucking sense, and no one is even right. But it's like being caught in a little bubble where things just go, and they don't go anywhere except for like in your brain. And then you just go home with it and keep that information forever.
Right.
So I can just imagine this like spreading like wildfire.
Yeah. Yeah, all of these different ideals too is just like,
I know, and I want to think that like it's husbands, like it's a husband coming home and being like, "Dear, read this book, it'll help you," and then the woman being like, "Okay," but it probably wasn't. It was probably women pushing it on women.
It's true. It's totally true. I mean, well, that kind of leads into the next book that was Yeah, so,
I love when you sigh before telling me things.
So, Maribel Morgan, she was, like, the big bitch. Like, the big, like, housewife enthusiast.
Okay.
I didn't mean to call her a big bitch. I meant, like a big, bad bitch. Like, she's, like... that bitch.
She's like was she like super outspoken about?
She was very, very, very passionate about her book that she wrote called The Total Woman, because she was in like, I guess a turbulent marriage. After I guess like 6 years of being married, she was really unhappy, and she like couldn't figure out what to do, so she wrote this book. So Maribel Morgan is basically the reason that women were, and still like sometimes are, discouraged from being anything but a housewife. She was super religious, Christian, and she promoted a very like pure Christian lifestyle, which is interesting because like this book was a lot about sex, so it was, I'll get more into that, but so Maribel and her husband, Charlie, they got engaged 6 months after they met, and he proposed to her in his car, and she then apparently, like, snuggled up next to him and, like, fell asleep, and then when she awoke, she heard him say, like, "And that's what I want in a wife." So he basically was talking while she was sleeping, like, and she was like, "Oh my god!" Like
she missed all the
good stuff. Yeah. So, and she was like, "Had she been awake, like, I could have saved myself and Charlie years of misery," is what she said. And it's like, girl, like, also, if you woke up, he just proposed to you, and he's like, and that's what I want in a wife, and it's like you just tuned in, and like wouldn't you be like, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I'm sorry, there was the sound of the car outside. I just missed, like, I don't even know how long that was. One more time for me.
Yeah. Also, I don't give a shit what you want in a wife because I am what I fucking am.
Yeah, I would like. I wish that the meaning behind the statement of like, if I had just not fell asleep during that lecture, I would have saved us like years of terrible marriage. I'm just like, I wish that you meant by that, I would have been able to be like, oh, that's what you want in a wife? Never mind then.
I know. Oh yeah.
You can have this back, and I'm gonna go.
So that's not me. And exactly. So these years of misery, misery, I guess, I don't know, inspired her to write The Total Woman, which was published in 1973. And it was a self-help book for married women. She wrote it because she was unhappy in her own marriage, and she wanted to spice it up.
Don't we all?
Don't we all?
Just
yes.
Spicy.
So a few quotes from this book because they're just like buck wild.
I'm so excited.
It's only when a woman surrenders her life to her husband, reserves and worships him, and is willing to serve him, that she becomes really beautiful to him. So that is basically like the thesis.
I just got chills.
If you will.
I got chills from that statement.
Yeah, and like I always knew these things existed. Like I know people used to say these things, but like to actually read these quotes was like so made it like sink in so much more for me that things actually used to be this way. And the thing is, like, they still fucking are subtly, not even subtly, just like in different ways.
We've made progress, but we're nowhere near done with it. And I think that honestly, like with everything going on, at least in our country, we're probably moving backwards. But what is surprising to me is that like women, I'm not surprised at all that this existed, that it happened. I 100% understand and believe it. Because I mean, that's what our entire, at least again, I'm solely speaking in United States of America history, it has been men, especially white men, just trying to raise their status and power by lowering everyone else's. And the thing that surprises me is that these women, that they were on board. That this was coming from a woman. That, and that it was so firmly believed by everyone. Which just blows my mind. Like, where I know that there were some out there that were just like, this is fucking bullshit. No thanks. I'm gonna go home and open a beer and just like fuck all y'all. But
exactly. Oh, for sure. But it's also it's really interesting to think about, like, because a lot of people out there are like doms or subs, and if people are really into like the submissiveness of a relationship, then I could see this working. But to preach it to all women and saying like all women need to be this way, if you're unhappy in your marriage, then this is why, and you need to do everything.
Yeah, there's no
for
choice
him, and you can't work, you can't like do anything that you want to do. Everything is for him. So
yeah, even you, your whole life, it's meaningless.
Yeah, so,
unless it's making him happy or pleasing him in some way.
Yeah, and it's God.
I know.
So, more quotes.
Let's hear it. I just want to hear all about her.
So, yeah, she was quoted in an interview saying, "A total woman caters to her man's special quirks, whether it be salads, sex, or sports." So that's a fun little catchphrase.
Oh, look at that. Her alliteration. She's just she's letting loose. I love it.
And one of her tips was remove all prickly hairs and be squeaky clean from head to toe. Never allow the hands to be still during intercourse. And
whoa.
I know. Don't just jazz hands. The whole time.
Yes.
So
I love it. Just jazz hand it up the whole time. It's just like you just like mid intercourse, and your husband's just like, "What does that sound?" And he looks down, and you're just like making dough for biscuits for breakfast. It's like, gotta stay busy, idle hands or the devil's work or something. I read this in a book. It's for you.
This is for you. What, you don't love it?
Oh my god.
Another tip was, this is good. I actually really like this because it shows how she's like sort of condescending too. Where it's like
not surprising.
To bolster a husband's ego, ask him to open jars for you.
Oh no!
Which I think is really
okay.
It's funny because it's like, I can open this shit on my own, but I need him. It's not funny. I don't know why. It's like, because I know that the woman in this situation is manipulating the man,
right?
And he's like, "Oh, I'm so big and strong, I can open this," and then he like can't. Like, what if?
Oh my god, that would be the best if he just couldn't.
She opens it,
and there's
like,
so many things I want to say about this. First, I just love how it takes like literally nothing to make men feel good about themselves and be
true.
like to reassure them of how completely amazing they are. It's like, thanks for twisting something for me. You really are the man.
You really know how to
twist
did it. Yeah.
You reached top tier today when you opened those pickles for me.
Remember this morning when you opened that jar?
The other thing, while I try to be a practicing feminist in every way, shape, and form, I'm 100% okay with just like pretending like I'm like, you can carry the heavy furniture. It's like that idea of like, hey, if you want to play the like strong man right now, I'll just stand here and that's fine with me.
If you're gonna do that, then like that's
you know
fine.
what? Show off let's just show off how good you are grabbing and picking up and moving things, and I'll just stand here and watch you struggle.
That is like one of the few benefits of like this kind of stereotype, because a lot of the times if I'm like moving or something, I'm like, I'm so weak.
Yeah, you can do it for me. Because you're right, it really is kind of like just a manipulation.
So
like, listen, I know exactly what you want to hear, and I'm gonna give it to you, and then I don't have to move. So win-win, honestly.
Bingo. Yeah. So, yeah, and also she said like the whole jar opening thing. She's like, it's not manipulation. We're just doing it because we want to be tip-top wives. So she was even like, we're not manipulating this. I really just like can't open this jar.
Yeah. Listen, when I do something purposely to make you think something about yourself unconsciously, it's not manipulation.
Yeah.
That's something totally different.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I love her. I mean, I hate her,
but
I love her.
I hate her, yeah. But like, I love her.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's really, she's so interesting to me because like, I don't know. There are more quotes that I want to get through too, and like, so she also was like, she was actually really famous for like telling all these women in this book to be like, to dress up, not dress up actually, just to fucking wrap themselves in saran wrap.
She was the cause of this?
Yeah. So
that's
like when the husband walks in the door, you're just in saran wrap. Which
beautiful.
Is
oh my god, that
beautiful.
would be such a bad idea.
I know.
Because
it's
terrible.
Like, I feel like you would just look like a dead body washed up on shore.
Like if you're like
not that it matters,
way hot, like that
like,
might be a turn on. I mean, I don't see why it would be though. Honestly, like there's just nothing attractive about saran wrap.
I'm also like picturing like your arms are like saran wrap to your body, so you're just like hopping.
Oh,
like...
the only like I feel like that has been a joke in like a ton of
it's definitely been parodied.
Movies and TV shows. But my first encounter with the saran wrap for your man a scenario was in the movie Fried Green Tomatoes.
Yeah,
and Kathy Bates.
Yes,
she does it. I love it.
Yeah, that was where they got, because this was such a huge thing for so long, and everybody was like obsessed with it, and people like did it all the time with their husbands. But there's like no account of Maribel Morgan actually doing it, which is interesting. If I'm not mistaken, I didn't find anything, but like she wrote more about like how she one day, and it's kind of like, it's a little creepy and weird because like her husband came home and she was in this like, you know, those like baby doll like lingerie, like short, like pink whatever. She was in that and like go-go boots, and her fucking 2 little girls were there.
No.
And as she greeted her husband at the door in this thing, and he like, ugh! So she, this is her quote about it. So she said, "My quiet, reserved, non-excitable husband." I also just realized like that was how she described
that's so
her
nice.
husband.
True love, people. Relationship goals all day long.
Oh,
she just like dragged her husband in her own book,
like
while giving tips.
Fucking, God damn, I wish
God,
she were
I
like
do
this
kind of
badass.
like her. I
wish
hate
she
it.
were like a fucking feminist, because like this could have all been twisted in such a different way.
Maybe she was just like trolling us all. Maybe she.
I don't know. Like she could have been.
Yeah.
She could have been.
She's like
and
mastermind.
Like, just
if
nuts.
only the internet existed for her, she would have taken over the world. I'm sure of it.
Her non-excitable husband took one look at her in this fucking lingerie, dropped his briefcase on the doorstep, and chased me around the table. We were in stitches by the time he caught me, and breathless with that old feeling of romance. Our little girl stood flat against the wall, watching our escapade, giggling with delight.
Oh, God.
We all had a marvelous evening together, and Charlie forgot to mention his problems of the day. So...
So she was like,
awful.
well, one, he didn't whine, and that was a plus for me. Like, he just comes home, and he bitches about how hard his day is. And quite frankly, I just wanted him to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Okay, there's so many creepy things about that, though. I can't.
It's insane. Like,
oh, God, there's so many creepy things about that.
I don't like that. I
Like
don't
the children
like it.
oh, God, no.
Just watching. Oh, my God, if I...
And then, like, just the idea of what you're wearing...
And like what it means,
and why is that so attractive?
It's
lots
weird.
to unpack here.
It's
Listen,
weird.
we're gonna leave you with those thoughts, so you just let those ruminate. Think about. We're not gonna give you the answers.
Yeah,
we're just gonna let you think about it.
Moving on.
Okay.
It's like, what the hell? God, different strokes for different folks.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Indeed. I would say the quiet, reserved, unpleasant man definitely experienced some different strokes that evening.
God.
I mean, her busy hands. Are you kidding me?
She did not stop moving those hands all night. Gross. But this is actually where... This is a quote of hers that I really liked and wish she had like acted upon, because she was talking about, she was in an interview, I think with like People magazine, and she admits thinking like whenever like Charlie, her husband, would like rub her the wrong way, she admits thinking, if only I weren't teaching like that blasted course, because then she taught all of these, like, a Total Women classes to women across the country. She's like, if I weren't teaching that blasted course, I'd tell him a thing or two. And I'm like, like, you have so much you want to say to him.
It's in there.
Like, he pisses you off, but, like, I feel like she lets him, like, she's there to, like, please him, and it's, like...
It's, like, it's probably just, like, that idea of, like, well, if only I could just... open my mouth and say what I wanted to, but there's so many things stopping me. That blasted course
that she's teaching, and like I'll get into that a little bit too, but God. Like it's just
so it was in there.
That's upset. Yeah, like she's got.
It's good to know. I mean, there's hope for us all, you know.
Yeah. So her Total Women classes came out. She started doing them after the book came out because it was such a big hit. It was $15 for a 2-hour lesson.
Steal.
Yeah, fucking bargain. So she gained like a huge following. She trained like 100 instructors to teach the course throughout the country. More than like 15,000 women ended up attending them, and some of those were like, it was like apparently a big deal that like dozens of wives of like Miami's Dolphins players were a part of this course.
Oh my.
Like they all graduated the course, which is weird. That's just a fun fact. So these classes taught women to be prepared for sex every single night of the week. So it was basically
that's exhausting.
Right? Compared to this guy that was like, I only have sex once a day.
Oh yeah, I miss the old tame days, the old easy days of.
I would never have any time to get
of Dave.
done.
I miss you,
Everybody
Dave.
wants to have sex with me all the time.
Right.
So yeah, this was basically like have sex every single. Well, be prepared, but it was like it wasn't like it was like be prepared for it, which is like so much grosser than
so don't
like,
initiate it.
Yeah, just like be ready for whenever he wants it, which is like so much worse. Just awful.
Like it.
I don't like it either. Yeah, so so this was obviously like wildly all of this is like wildly heteronormative, and it's just like really toxic, and it's obviously like the man's pleasure is emphasized over the woman's.
Naturally,
of course. Like, when hasn't it been?
It's so funny. It's so funny.
Oh man, I love to laugh.
I know. Just light topics, really funny. You know, I don't like to get serious over here.
No, never.
Okay.
So Maribel Morgan kind of became the unofficial spokesperson for the opposition of like the women's to the women's movement, which was the second wave of feminism.
Got it.
Which is so weird because like the reason I think I don't like her, but I want to like her because I know she has like potential. Like she was the first woman to really normalize like non-procreative sex in like the religious community, because she was super religious, and a lot of her book was like had Bible stuff in it. No, sorry.
Stuff like New Old Testament type
like
deal with, like Corinthians and stuff. You get it.
You know.
You understand. The rapture, you know.
Oh my god. Exactly. Sorry. So she wanted women to like, get dressed up and like have fun with sex and like so I don't know. I just find that really interesting how she spoke out about sex a lot.
I feel like if she had
that community.
had done this in a different era, and she would have been more on the right side of things.
Yes.
But I feel like she's I mean, partially she's awful, and then partially she's like a victim of her time. And then partially, I'm kind of into her. I'm very conflicted about Maribel.
That's how I feel.
Maribel Morgan she's a complicated individual.
Yeah. There's so many layers. And like, she said like before the Total Woman, and before she wrote all this, she was a shrew, quote, a shrew, which I love because I love that word. But also like, you're not a shrew. Your husband was probably just a piece of shit, and then you did all the fucking work to make your marriage like decent again. And it's like, well, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's like you're choosing to be fake happy doing all the things you don't want to do. It's like, there's like a moment, probably pretty often, when you just like kind of are sitting there or laying there and you're just like, I am so deeply unhappy right now. But you just like fake it, and you like push it down, and you push up the like, let me be creepy in like a baby doll outfit with my kids around, and it's just like, no, girl.
No, there are other ways.
There's better ways.
Yeah. And then there was the Total Woman, and then she released the Total Woman Cookbook.
Oh, gotta have it. Uh-oh. I'm honestly
surprised.
So
this is where the food and sex thing kind of.
I see.
Yeah, because I was looking into food and sex, and then that kept coming up, and I was like, what is this? And then I dove into this whole fucking
I'm so happy you did, because this is fascinating. I love it.
It is. It's wild.
I definitely still want to hear more about the food, but we got a taste.
Oh yeah,
we got like a good ice cream
Oh,
milk,
true. Milk,
yogurt
milky ice cream.
would probably be included in
yeah,
there.
like saran wrap is a food-related item.
It's true. For your leftovers.
This is a teaser for my next topic, I guess.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, this was her, like, kitchen survival handbook.
Love it.
This was published in 1980, so I feel
God,
like that was, like,
that
recent,
is
right?
so
It's,
soon.
like,
That
too
feels
recent.
not that long ago.
Yeah.
Ew.
I know.
Chills again.
Yeah. Oh, man, damn it. And, like, I don't know. This book should have just been called, like, Food, Sex, and God. Because, like, that's, like, what this one was all about. She's, like, I don't know. She was just a fucking freak. And this was actually the book, I think, where the whole saran wrap thing came into play.
That makes sense. Yeah, food related.
It's, like, food related
I get
stuff.
it.
Yeah.
I wonder if she just had like a Bible tucked in there somewhere to bring like the trifecta of those things together.
Yeah, I'm sure she figured
God
it out.
bless her.
This woman driving me insane.
I hate her, and
I
love
know. I know,
So
right?
hard.
I'm so confused sexually. But she also was like, greet your husband at the door in like nothing but an apron and like heels. And a funny little anecdote is not anecdote because it's not my own story. But that'd be really funny. But so one of the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
His wife, I don't know which one it was. I don't know,
Number 13.
Number 13 for sure. His
name was Paul Danarino.
Yep.
I think there was like wasn't the Miami Dolphins was a football team in Ace Ventura.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because of the dolphin.
Right?
Yeah.
The dolphin got kidnapped.
Courtney
Cox and Jim Carrey saved it.
They did.
And Dan Marino. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm trying. It doesn't matter. Ray Finkel was Ray Finkel. This is all making sense now. No, just kidding. Okay. Okay, what happened to the Miami Dolphin wife?
That was really good.
Let's call her. We need an acronym for her. So it's MDF. No, MD. I was thinking female. She's a wife, though. Different. Those are two different.
Which is not her only notable quality.
I'm sure. She probably was
but I also
smart
don't know
or
what
funny.
The Miami Dolphin is
That's
or
true,
who he is. No one matters. It doesn't matter.
Okay, what happened to this MDW?
She took this course, and her husband knew that she had taken the course.
Yes.
So she came home one day, and he was in an apron and had a hair, just like an apron on. I thought that was funny.
That's funny. I feel like he's making fun of it.
For sure.
He's like, see how stupid this is? I hope. That's funny. I hope he wasn't a douche. Maybe he was a good one. Oh, that was a happy MDW. I just want to keep calling it MDF. MDW. That was a good MD Dub story. I appreciate
We're going to use that acronym a lot.
We're going to just
really useful.
find... I love it. Okay, sorry. So
that little thing happened. She also in the cookbook, she was like, venture away from the bedroom and fuck under the dining room table.
Oh, saucy.
Saucy. But then I thought about like fucking under the dining room table.
Right, that
sounds
sounds
really
terrible.
annoying. Like wouldn't you maybe on top of it? That's what. But also,
there's so many.
Depends on the stability of the table. There's a lot of
height
factors.
of the table. Like, how tall are you? How tall is he?
Yeah, everybody just don't take risks.
Right. I'm just thinking, like, do in your bedroom, and like, if your hands want to be still, like, let them.
Let them be still. You don't have to fuck under the table
with your jazz hands. It's
there
not
are other
necessary.
Places to fuck that are fun.
Under the dining room table. That just sounds like a disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah. No, I don't know, man. So that was
also I have dogs, so like I can't do anything near the floor. That's terrible. It would just be would be inappropriate.
No, inappropriate.
Weird.
They can't know what sex is.
They don't need to see that.
So she actually had a really interesting like upbringing. She had like not a great relationship with her family.
Mm-hmm.
Her parents got divorced when she was 3. Her dad took off pretty soon after. She said she like doesn't even have a picture of him. He was like a salesman, and she didn't even know what he sold.
Okay.
Her mom married like twice more, and she was like super depressed. She spent all of her time in her bedroom with like the blinds drawn, and I also want to know more about her mom, because her mom would paint these like really like morose looking paintings with like really dark like maroons and like really dark greens, and she was just in the dark all the time.
Interesting.
And Maribel said it was like she would be left to like have dinner with just like peanut butter and crackers and like just like alone,
and it is all making sense now,
right?
It
and
is.
like she
even the weird food thing,
yeah. And like she went like 20 years without speaking to her mom afterwards, like once she became, I don't know, present day. I think Maribel Morgan is still alive. I think she is, but she had breast cancer, but I think she survived it. Don't know where she's at, don't know what she's doing. Would love to pick her brain.
Yeah, it'd be great. Maribel, if you're listening, we'd love to chat about
we have so many questions.
But that does all kind of like fit. It's weird how much that all kind of just like fits into place, and you can just like see it all.
Yes.
Oh, that's terrifying.
It's crazy. And like,
yeah.
She was basically on her own with like no one to really look up to, and like is this why she was so desperate to save her own marriage instead of just getting divorced? Was because like her mom got divorced so much,
and what it did to her mom. So she was probably like, that was because my mom couldn't have a happy marriage or keep her husband happy, and so she couldn't be happy.
Exactly.
When in reality, it sounds like your mom may have just had a like mental disorder. Yeah, it's weird. You can just see it all, like the dad leaving, like being abandoned, and then not being able, like seeing her mom not, I'm gonna say this in a really like gross way, but just for what I'm sure she was interpreting it as. I'm absolutely positive actually. No, but like she was probably thinking it like her mom wasn't able to like keep her men happy and keep them around, and it's just like, wow, it's so weird. It makes so much sense,
right?
And it also is so disturbing to me.
It is, yeah. It's sad, and it's like she went through a lot, and like this is she came out on the other side, I guess, like happy.
Yeah. Question mark.
But yeah, like I don't know, I guess like her mom was really like inactive, and she wanted to be really active in her own relationships and stuff, so maybe that's like
she
why
refused to like quit on her obviously unpleasant marriage. But I don't agree with most to all of the things she said, but I guess at the same time she was able to be a powerful woman.
Right, like
in the end.
Yeah, like she had
made
her
a
own
name for herself.
She published her books, she like did all these classes, and she also like, I mean, I guess we won't know for sure if she was truly happy, but if she was truly happy with what she was doing, then like you're a woman doing what you want to do, and like that's sort of a way of being a feminist, but it also is like
but also
she was not.
You definitely weren't.
Like what?
And you created so many problems, and you're awful. But that was fantastic.
You ruined my life. But
that was amazing. I love that. That was so interesting.
Thanks. I've been thinking about this for so long just because I've been looking so much up about it, but it's like I wish there were more, like I know she appeared on like a lot of talk shows when the book was big, but I couldn't find any interviews, and it's I don't know, I don't know, she's a wild woman, and
indeed.
I have no idea. I wonder if she's like gotten divorced eventually, or I probably should have researched that for this episode.
I actually have the answer to that. I know. I looked it up. No, I'm just kidding. No, I wonder where she is. I would hope her reserved, unpleasant husband stuck by her during her breast cancer, but who knows?
Yeah,
but that was fascinating.
Thanks.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, She's a lot to unravel, but like she especially in all that saran wrap, but sorry. But
okay, we're just gonna get the scissors because this is just becoming like a whole thing. Can we just cut you out, please? Not as sexy that way.
God, I know. But so but it's interesting because there was the women's movement was happening, and I saw these aprons online that were like made at the time. She was like trying to be like, she was like big with this book and everything, and it said these aprons said just like fuck housework, and I kind of like want one of those. That's amazing. But I
would love one of those.
Yeah, so there were definitely two opposing sides, and then her fame kind of blended into like third wave feminism too, which is like current day feminism. So I mean, like the opposition to that, I guess, was what she was, and it's just so, I don't know, I'm so confused. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I don't like her.
I definitely don't like her. I definitely
there are parts of her where I'm like, oh, like you
so
you
close.
got this. Yeah, like so close. Like, come on, break through. I don't know.
It's like you have me and then you lost me again with your saran wrap.
Damn. Yeah. So I don't think what she did was great for like womankind at all. But
I would say you're right. I'd say that's accurate. Yeah.
So I think that. But as a person, I feel like she had her own troubles, and
Yeah.
This was how she dealt with them, maybe.
That's amazing.
But people took it fucking way too seriously.
I mean, apparently,
yeah,
like $15 to learn how to like hate your life, just 2 hours.
Exactly.
We can teach you how to literally not like anything about yourself.
I could do that for
the low
free.
Price.
Yeah,
I just need like 5 minutes on the internet, and I'm there. Like that's me. So I don't need your help.
I'm so good at hating myself.
Oh, well, that was an amazing history of the stereotypical housewife.
Yeah, I
loved
really
it.
should like buy these books now and like.
I know. I just want to hear. I mean, but first, Cosmopolitan, because the people are waiting for their sex tips. They need to know.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So take away from this episode.
Yes.
Fast, busy hands. Dairy products.
Keep them moving, ladies.
Back rubs. I mean, that's a good way to keep your hands busy.
Yeah.
And, just pump some Coca-Cola up your vag.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Just like all the ladies did back in the day. Oh my god. Horrifying.
Well, thanks for listening. Go enjoy the rest of your day now that we've put this bright spot there. So happy. Yay.
So suck on that.
You can find us on the internet at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Our handle is @Frisky History. You can also listen on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes. Google maybe has one. Anywhere podcasts are available.
You can direct your questions, concerns, feedback, and weird sex stories to our email at friskyhistory@gmail.com.
Yeah. So, bye.